Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good time. People a bit tired. Been a long week, long night. Well, listen, thank you so much for the organizers to invite me to talk about how to build a crypto startup. And also thanks to you guys for attending, people in person and from afar. But anyhow, my name is Rune. I'm one of 6 team members at Move, which is a firm investing in projects building on Near. And that gives us focus. We only focus on the Near protocol, Aurora and Octopus and so forth. But you could probably ask yourself, like, why am I here to talk about how to build a crypto startup? And I was asking myself the same question, because really we should find some unicorn or, even bigger number founders to come and talk about how to build a successful crypto startup. But it was a suggestion of a theme from the organizers, and I was just like, let us see how we can address it and give you some useful input, or at least some perspective on things and how we look at the world. So, you may be disappointed because we're not going to talk about crypto economics or anything like that, but we are going to focus on 3 themes. And you could probably argue that from our team we are looking at a collection of thousands of data points from working with founders in Web 2 and Web 3. But yeah, here we go. So I think one of the, if not the determining factor for building a successful crypto business, whether it is crypto or not, is probably secondary, right? It's really speed. Speed of decision making and speed of execution, and we'll come back to that in a second. We're not only talking about shipping products fast and failing here, and we're not talking about drugs or the movie called Speed, but we'll come back to that. The other one that we think are really important to address if you want to build a great company is the culture, right? We're building the culture and the values knowingly or unknowingly as we go from day one, and especially the founding team are critical in this component. The third one might be the odd one, but that's breathe, and we'll take that in the end. Okay, so I try to keep these sort of themes high level, simple. There are 3 things I do not expect you to agree with all what we say, but at least if you listen, and we get you to reflect a little bit, and then you can throw it out the other way, that's all fine, right? But I would really say the most important thing that we tell our founders, the determinant factor for you guys to be successful and be a category killer, is speed, right? Make decisions fast, and also actually execute on them fast. And I don't know if you know Dave Gerard, who is the CEO and founder of Upstart, but he did a really nice article on first round capital about building out speed as a habit, right? And I would recommend you to take a look at that. You can use your preferred search engines to find the article. It should be very easy. But I think the one of the key points that stood out to me when going through that and sort of sharing that as some sort of advice with founders is it's more important when a decision is being made than actually what decision is being made. Because most decisions can also always be changed or reversed. But you do have to consider whenever you make decisions, the type of decisions you make, how much resources is needed, and actually also try to put an end date on them, right? And that's often something that is forgotten when you enter meetings and so forth with the team, when do we actually do stuff? It's easy when you're just 2 people or 4 people maybe, right? But when you grow the team, you need to consider these things to create that sort of habit of speed in the organization. Anyhow, the next one is culture. So I spent 9 years at Google, and the one key learning I had was it's all about the people. Google is an amazing still company. It's a conventional company now, but still an amazing company when it comes to the culture. And I think the sole reason, or I strongly believe that the sole reason for them being so successful is the fact that it built this very, very strong culture. And I think the point here is it's not about hiring per se, right? But it's really about the culture you're trying to create in an organization. And you could look at actually Jenny, who is our people partner. She spent 14 years at Google in various hiring roles, and the founders letter was a really important thing, right? Like Larry and Sergey actually came down and said, we do not want to build like a conventional company. Also the way they did the IPO and so forth, as some of you might know, back in 2004. But anyhow, like when the founders sort of stood back and left the company, I suppose you could say, she was just like, this is turning into a conventional company. I'm probably going to see what I can figure out else. And I think the founders probably don't think about it that often, but you are building those values that sort of represents the culture, like from day one, how you interact, how you engage with people, how you hire or fire people. That needs to be done in a good way, regardless of what the situation is. But I think like you should really try to sort of, if you're founding teams, like think about like if someone mentions my company name, what is the one word or value or like you want to be associated with that, right? I think that's a nice way to sort of try to simplify it, because culture can, it's hard to put a finger on, right? It's not like numbers. So yeah, I'd really encourage you to think about that. And when I look at as you would know by now, the NEAR ecosystem and the NEAR protocol, in my experience, also coming back to the speed thing, like they are the best team in terms of technical execution, right? And humble people all around, obviously bullish on the technology, but they also expect you to work, right? You can't just sit on your ass and wait for things to happen, right? And I think like there is that strong, which is becoming more and more evident when we see the NEAR ecosystem grow. There's an exceptionally strong focus on building, right? And getting builders who want to come in. It's not just about the financial returns like from up front, right? But actually want to create great products that have value for others and impact. And I think those things are really, really, like, can be really guided or come through fruition, I suppose, if you have a strong culture with the values that, are important to you. Anyhow, so the last one is breathe. So, the last 2 years, you had a little around the COVID when that sort of started to frighten everybody, like in the spring of 2020, funding and so forth stopped for a quick while, but like then, it just went through the roof in general when it comes to the venture and startup ecosystem. And then you had crypto, which was just like on steroids, right? And, the space is moving so fast. And obviously that's where also the speed piece comes in. But as a founder, you're wearing several hats all the time. And I think strategically, you would, as a founder, want to work towards a position, which will take years, where you can have the freedom to focus only on the activities or the work you want to do so you can have the most impact, right? But that's not possible in the early days, right? But in order to get there, you also need to take a step back and actually breathe, right? And just get that macro view, right? So I'm actually going to ask you to do a little exercise with me here. Please don't think about anything, right? Just close your eyes, and take one big, deep breath. Yeah? And do it 2 times more. As deep as you can, and exhale slowly. And I'm sure if you do it properly, we all know this, right? But because we forget about actually breathing, it's just something we don't think about. But actually, if you're conscious about it, you can feel it in your brain. I'm sure some of you can feel that you've got more oxygen to your head right now. But, taking a step back, many years ago, I spent a couple of years in the military, and one of the ways that, luckily I was never in combat, but when we were doing like field exercises, physically we were looking, I'm from Denmark, and if you've been to Denmark, the highest mountain is called the Sky Mountain, and it's 165 meters high. It's just a hill. So this is somewhere in Austria. But the point I'm trying to make is, I was trying to visualize myself standing. I have a map. I know we are going to go that way. We know that it's not going to be a straight line, and we know we need to sort of navigate our way through. And the exact same thing in startup world, right? There will be pivots, there will be changes, external factors, and so forth. But therefore, it's so important for you guys to actually just take a step back once in a while, and founders, and actually try to figure out where you're going. And that can be hard because you're in full execution mode all the time. And I suppose, you also need to look back, and whether it's to see why did you arrive where you arrived, right? And that can be, it's easy to forget because we move as fast as we do, but I would highly recommend you guys, I'm really bad at it, but capture notes, whether understand where you're going, create some kind of diary, create a weekly internal newsletter. You have your investor newsletters, which are also really useful, right? But try to capture whether it's qualitative or also quantitative data, so you can actually understand how you're progressing, because that's the only way for you to learn and understand where you should go next. And I think on that traction in terms of metrics, just as a sort of a side note or a fun fact, I think it's super important, who you are, which company you are, where you're at, what stage you are at in. The metrics you need to measure against obviously differ. And I think the best example I can come up with is sitcom Silicon Valley, as I'm sure some of you or many of you have seen, when they are gonna have this celebration, as I remember it, celebration party, and have this big counter on a big screen, and the downloads of the apps is just going through the roof, and then they realize there is zero actual usage of the app. And just make sure that you track the right things as well, depending on where you're at. And that's where I think just try to breathe once in a while, and you will actually get a better feel for whether you're in the right direction or not. So 3 things: speed, culture, breathe, right? Think about them. If you remember one of them, you don't need to agree, but take them with you, and I'm hopeful it will have a little bit of impact. Anyhow, if you also long or near, we are actually hiring someone who can help us do technical due diligence on all the projects we work with. So if you're interested, come and talk to us. Email Jenny. She's here somewhere as well. And I just want to say thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.